bringing all these ideas together, I'm going to take you back in time. Years ago, 10 years after my undergrad, my roommates decided that we were going to have a reunion. And the decision was that we were going to go to Southern California and do a week of surf school. Sounded good. Actually, this was the picture I had in my mind. I won't share with you the real picture. It was a humbling week, to say the least. What was fascinating, though, was that the very first morning of surf school, our instructor lined us up along the water. We had our big surfboards under our arm. He's like, no one can go in yet. He's like, I got a question for you. He goes, you think you know how this works. You're going to fight the waves, find a good one, ride it in. But he said, if the waves are always bringing water into shore, how does the water get back out? Everyone kind of looked at the person beside them silently. He's like, think about it. Waves bring water in. Where does it go? And ultimately, what he wanted us to understand was this phenomenon or this reality of a riptide or a rip current. You know, something I heard about, but I didn't really understand. He said, you know, that water comes in through the waves, but that water eddies and pools, and it forms a rip current or a riptide, which is actually a river flowing perpendicular to shore. Flows right out in the ocean. Goes against everything you'd expect. And he explained why we had to be careful. What he explained happened to me once, but it was everything that I needed to know I wanted to avoid these at all costs. He says you're going to be fighting waves to get to a good wave, and you're going to all of a sudden put your head up. But if you're in a riptide, you're going to be about 2 or 3 times further out than you thought you'd be. And everything in you is going to want to just swim to shore. But he goes, you can't beat a riptide. In fact, the harder you swim towards shore, the quicker you'll tire and find yourself going in the opposite direction. And he said, these things kill people. And as I said, I experienced just a small one, but that gave me all the motivation to say, even beyond learning to surf, I'm going to learn how to avoid riptides. So every morning I would show up and I would study the currents, and I'd look, anything that looked close to a riptide, I would go far, far away. The other thing, though, that I noticed every single morning, the real surfers would show up. You know, the legit surfers. They'd do the same thing. They'd be looking for riptides, but what shocked me is that they weren't looking to avoid them. They were actually looking to ride them. You know, I would get far away and I would be fighting waves to get to one good wave. They'd ride riptides out like an escalator. Pop off. They'd be on their 6th or 7th wave by the time I got to my first. They took something that I feared and avoided, and they leveraged it to their advantage. They had fun with it. And you know, we spent the first 2 minutes of my talk talking about this word tension. And almost all of you assume tension is bad. And I said, because of that, we often do one of two things. We avoid it or we ignore it. And yet when we do that, we often find ourselves going the exact opposite direction of the very strategies and values and priorities that we have. You know, and I've seen this inability to navigate tension really derail leaders' career. I've seen it totally blow up teams. I've also seen leaders, and then the teams that they lead, who have the ability to keep solving problems and the ability to understand and navigate tensions. And like the pro servers, that's the competitive advantage. You know, that's the ability to say, we're not going to just talk about leadership agility, we're going to live it out. We're not going to just talk about moving with speed, we're going to actually have the skills to do that. The research is crystal clear. Leaders, teams, and organizations that can continue solving problems and at the same time embrace and even leverage tension outperform everyone around them. And looking at what you've done in the past year and knowing what you're going to talk about around the year ahead, you know, my encouragement is to lean into the tension. Identify a few that you know are make it or break it for us and make it safe in your culture to really tap into the power of healthy tension. Thank you so much. This has been fun. Thank you.